In this series of Railways in a Nutshell, the focus will be on rail cars. The first video will feature the boxcar. The boxcar is what most people picture when they think of railways. For many years, it was by far the most common car. Through a variety of reasons that I will review in this video, the boxcar is now a distant sixth place amongst the main cars, which doesn't include the specialty cars. So in a brief history of the boxcar, first, let's think of the concept. Boxcar is exactly as it sounds. It's basically a box or rectangle that holds product on steel wheels. It's a very simple concept, but very versatile. It could carry things from consumer goods to non-perishable foods to automobiles to steel, bricks, etc. Now, in the 1960s, they being the railways, started to develop auto racks, which were specialized in carrying automobiles, and the boxcar was no longer used to do that. And in that case, they would use a special double-door boxcar. Other things that they hauled with boxcars for a time being was livestock until in the 1880s, and then the actual stock car was invented, because it was built to allow air in and out of the car so the livestock wouldn't suffer from overheat or a lack of air. Also bulk products. Coal, for instance, was once used in boxcars or loaded in boxcars. And even grain right into the 1990s. Certain branch lines out in Western Canada were still using the 40-foot boxcar to haul grain due to the light rail that was used out there and unable to get the big hopper cars in there. Another common use of boxcars right into, again, the 1990s, possibly even into the 2000s, was the pool car. Basically, what the pool car was a third-party company would bring a boxcar into their facility, and they would load a bunch of less-than-carload shipments, very similar to less-than-truckload, and they would consolidate those shipments into a full load. The result being that they would save the customer a fair bit of money, provided that they had the time for the product to get there. Boxcars being notoriously slow compared to, say, shipping by truck, but a lot more cost effective. Another advantage of the pool car was that what these outfits could do is they could mix heavy freight with light freight. So, for instance, say loading steel on the bottom of the car and loading a lighter weight product, such as, say, insulation on the top part, thus maximizing the load and, once again, saving cost and making it economical for the customer and themselves as well. As the railways became more and more adept at hauling freight and modernized, the rail cars, the boxcars in particular, began to grow in size. At first, there was not a lot of standards out there, and the sizes were fairly short. 35, 37-foot boxcars were fairly common. But as time went on, the 40-foot boxcar rose as a standard, and it became very common, and that was the boxcar for many years. Some survived right into the 90s and that, but you really don't see them much around anymore unless they're in a work train, or in this case, in this picture, here's one that's now being used up in Northern Ontario as a storage shed. They were replaced basically by the 50-foot boxcar, and the size grew and grew, and so on, until they got as big as the big 86-foot high cube boxcars, which you can see here in this video rolling by. They are mainly used for hauling auto parts. They can hold quite a bit of product in that due to their size, and so they're very adept for that purpose. So, what happened to the boxcar? Well, a number of things happened to the boxcar. Railways in general were affected by trucking. With the better highway systems after World War II and better, more powerful trucks being developed, trucks developed a competitive edge, an advantage, especially on the short and medium haul. And that freight began to erode away from the railways and into trucks. Of course, a lot of that freight at the time was in boxcars. Intermodal transport, the rise of which happened in the railways, really came into its own. It's been around since the 1950s, but in the 90s and into the 21st century as well, intermodal transport became more and more prevalent amongst the railways. It was more efficient for them to haul. And it basically replaced in a lot of cases what the boxcars were hauling, and that included many consumer goods and even in some cases bulk product. Grains and soy and such are hauled in containers sometimes and exported out to the Far East. And the pool car, which I described earlier, is no more. It is all done now, consolidated into containers. The same companies that used to consolidate rail cars now consolidate product into containers. It's the same basic method, but just a different way of moving the product. Also, another factor is the specialization of rail cars. As railways became more and more efficient at hauling product, they also found that there were better cars for hauling certain things. So you saw a rise in tank cars for liquids, hopper cars for bulk, especially covered hoppers and regular hoppers, flat cars for hauling steel, as well as gondola cars. All these things played in the decline of the boxcar. And so today, as you may have noticed by many of the edits in my videos, the boxcar is not nearly as common as it used to be. The other thing that's declined big time is there's a lot less branch lines. Railways now are mostly run main line, point to point, terminal to terminal. Traditionally, they ran on branch lines, and there were a lot of rail sidings. A lot of businesses had rail sidings. Today, they are not as common at all. There still are out there, and there are certain businesses that still see value in having rail sidings. So that leaves us with today. So where is the boxcar at? Well, it still plays a key role, just not as much of a part. As you saw, those big high-cube boxcars are still used to haul auto parts. Boxcars are still used to haul the big paper reams for big print companies, big, huge rolls of paper. Building products, such as shingles and that, are still hauled economically by boxcar, where time is not of the essence. In that case, they will go by truck. Some consumer goods will still move by boxcar. Some bag bulk product. And also, you see with the rise of the short line and that, there's been a little bit of a comeback with regards to the team tracks and such. But really, the role of boxcar is definitely much diminished. So that concludes the session on boxcars. The series will continue in the next video with tank cars. Thank you for watching another video in my Railways in a Nutshell series focused on educating people on railway subject matter. If you like this video and are interested in seeing more of this type of content, please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have suggestions for other railway topics, feel free to send them to me.